Beyond the dazzling electric pulse of Las Vegas, there lies another Nevada, a vast, silent expanse of desert where the land itself holds its breath. Here, under the immense, unforgiving sky, are stories etched not in neon, but in dust and decay. These are the ghost towns, forgotten settlements that whisper of a time when hope and hardship lived side by side. To journey here is to step into a world where the past is not merely remembered, it is a palpable presence, clinging to every splintered board and crumbling stone. Join me as we traverse these sun-scorched landscapes, seeking out the remnants of dreams forged in gold and silver. We will uncover places where fortunes were made and lost in the blink of an eye, where communities blossomed with astonishing speed, only to wither just as quickly. This is a pilgrimage into the heart of the American West, a landscape where history, tragedy, and an enduring mystery converge. The wind that blows through these skeletal towns carries more than sand. It carries the echoes of lives lived, of laughter, and of sorrow. Our exploration is not simply of ruins, but of the very spirit of human ambition and resilience. We will stand where pioneers once stood, listen for the ghosts of their endeavors, and feel the profound silence left in their wake. The desert keeps its secrets well, but for those who know where to look, it offers a glimpse into a chapter of history that is both haunting and profoundly beautiful. Prepare to venture into the quiet corners of Nevada, where the silence speaks volumes and every shadow tells a story. Our journey begins in the shadow of the Bullfrog Hills, at what was once the most promising jewel of the desert, Rhyolite. In 1904, the discovery of rich gold ore sparked a frenzy. Within months, a raw, chaotic camp of tents and shacks exploded into a sophisticated city. Streets were laid, a stock exchange was built, and multi-story concrete buildings rose from the dust, defiant monuments to boundless optimism. It was a metropolis born of a fever dream, with electricity, running water, and even an opera house. For a brief, dazzling moment, Rhyolite was the undisputed queen of the goldfields. Investors poured in millions, and its population swelled to nearly 10,000 souls, all chasing the promise of unimaginable wealth. The Montgomery Shoshone mine, the town's beating heart, seemed to have an inexhaustible supply of gold. The town boasted hotels, banks, and dozens of saloons that never closed. It was a testament to the sheer force of human will, a city conjured from nothing but rock and ambition. But the desert is a fickle master. The financial panic of 1907 sent a fatal shockwave through the town's fragile economy. The ore, once thought endless, began to play out. The dream started to unravel as quickly as it had been woven. People began to leave, first in a trickle, then a flood, abandoning their homes and businesses to the encroaching silence. By 1911, the lights went out for good. The great stone buildings, built to last for centuries, were left to the wind and the sun. Today, Rhyolite is perhaps the most magnificent ghost in all of Nevada. Its skeletal remains stand against the sky, a hauntingly beautiful memorial to its meteoric rise and fall. The old bank, the train depot, and the shell of the general store are silent witnesses. And here, a peculiar treasure, a house built entirely from thousands of glass bottles, a testament to the ingenuity and thirst of the miners. It still stands, shimmering in the desert light, a fragile, enduring symbol of a city that burned so brightly, and so briefly. From the dusty hills we descend to the edge of a vast, man-made sea, Lake Mead. Here lies the story of a town not abandoned, but consumed. This was St. Thomas, a quiet Mormon farming community founded in 1865. For decades, its residents cultivated the fertile Moapa Valley, their lives governed by the seasons and the flow of the virgin and muddy rivers. They built homes, a school, a church, and planted orchards, creating a small, peaceful oasis in the harsh desert landscape. Their world was irrevocably altered in the 1930s with the construction of the Hoover Dam. As the mighty dam rose, so too did the waters of the newly forming Lake Mead. The government purchased the land, and the residents of St. Thomas were forced to leave their homes, their farms, their history. They watched, heartbroken, as the water crept slowly, relentlessly, across their fields, up their streets, and finally, over the rooftops of their town. The last resident, Hugh Lord, paddled away from his submerged home in 1938, leaving St. Thomas to the silence of the deep. For over 60 years, the town existed only in memory and myth, a hidden world beneath the waves. Boaters on Lake Mead would unknowingly glide over its streets, and fishermen would cast their lines above the sunken church. It became an Atlantis of the American West, a tragic story of progress and sacrifice, swallowed by the very resource that would bring life to the desert cities of the future. The community was scattered, but the memory of their drowned home endured. But the desert has a long memory. In recent years, prolonged drought has caused the waters of Lake Mead to recede dramatically, and from the depths, St. Thomas has begun to re-emerge. Like a ghost rising from its watery grave, the town's foundations and skeletal structures have appeared once more. The ghostly white, salt-encrusted ruins of the schoolhouse and the hotel now stand exposed under the sun, their reappearance a stark and eerie reminder of a forgotten tragedy, and a powerful symbol of our changing climate. We now travel to a place whose very name is a promise of riches. Goldfield. At the turn of the 20th century, this was no mere town, it was an empire. The gold discoveries here were so immense, so pure, that Goldfield quickly became the largest city in Nevada, a bustling, chaotic hub of wealth, power, and ambition. Its mines, the Mohawk and the Combination, produced millions, making it the queen of the mining camps. Fortunes were made overnight, and its opulent hotels and saloons catered to a new aristocracy of mining barons. The city was a whirlwind of activity, its streets, crowded with prospectors, financiers, and laborers from around the world, pulsed with energy. It had a population of over 20,000, a grand courthouse that still stands today, and a reputation for being the most exciting place on earth. At the heart of this opulence was the Goldfield Hotel, a 4-story masterpiece of luxury that cost a fortune to build. With its mahogany trim, gilded columns, and leather upholstery, it was the pinnacle of desert elegance, a place where deals were struck and legends were born. But Goldfield's golden age was destined to be short-lived. The richest veins of ore were quickly exhausted and production began a steep decline after 1910. Miners and investors moved on to the next big strike, and the city's population dwindled. The final devastating blow came in 1923. A massive fire, sparked by a moonshine still explosion, swept through the town, consuming 53 square blocks of the once mighty city. What the declining mines started, the fire finished, leaving Goldfield a hollowed-out shell of its former glory. Today, Goldfield is a shadow, a town haunted by its own spectacular past. While a few hundred residents remain, the ghosts of the boom years are everywhere. And nowhere is that presence felt more strongly than at the Goldfield Hotel. The now vacant building looms over the town, its empty windows like vacant eyes. It is legendary among paranormal investigators, a place of chilling stories and unexplained phenomena. They say the spirit of a woman named Elizabeth, among others, still wanders its silent, decaying halls, a permanent resident in this empire of dust. Midway between Reno and Las Vegas, we find Tonopah, a town that lives in two worlds at once. It's a place caught between its storied past and its functional present, a living community where the ghosts of the mining era are not just remembered, but are, well, kind of like neighbors. The story began in 1900 when a prospector named Jim Butler, chasing a runaway burro, stumbled upon one of the richest silver strikes in American history. This accidental discovery ignited a rush that would shape the destiny of Nevada. The boom that followed was immense. Tonopah became the queen of the silver camps, a sophisticated and prosperous city that, for a time, rivaled Goldfield in wealth and influence. Its mines produced staggering fortunes, funding the careers of political dynasties and building much of the state's infrastructure. Great mining corporations established their headquarters here, and the town developed a reputation for stability and longevity that many other boom towns just didn't have. It was a place of substance, built not just on frantic hope, but on tangible, glittering silver. The grand dame of this era is the Mizpah Hotel. Opened in 1907, it was one of the finest hotels in the West, a 5-story beacon of luxury and a social hub for the mining elite. Today it still operates, beautifully restored, a portal to the past. But guests who check in might find they are not alone. The hotel is famously haunted, most notably by the spirit of the Lady in Red, a prostitute said to have been murdered on the 5th floor. Her presence is just one of the many spectral tales that intertwine with the town's living history. Tonopah's duality is its defining feature. By day it's a functioning stopover town, a county seat with modern amenities, but by night, under the brilliant desert stars, the past reasserts itself. The hulking headframes of the old mines stand silhouetted against the sky, silent monuments to the source of all the town's wealth. The historic mining park offers a tangible connection to the labor and danger of the past, while the old cemeteries tell the stories of those who lived and died for silver. Here, more than anywhere, the veil between then and now feels incredibly thin. We venture now off the beaten path, deep into the heart of the Takama Range, to a place of quiet dignity and enduring stone. Belmont. Founded in the 1860s after the discovery of silver, Belmont represents a different kind of boomtown. It was more remote, more isolated, and its growth, while substantial, felt more deliberate than the frantic explosions of Goldfield or Rhyolite. For a time, it was the bustling seat of Nye County, a center of commerce and law for a vast and rugged territory. The town grew to support several thousand residents. Unlike the wooden shanties of many camps, Belmont was built to last. Its miners and merchants constructed sturdy buildings of brick and native stone, a clear sign of their intention to stay. The surrounding hills were dotted with mines, and the air was filled with the sounds of stamp mills crushing ore. The town supported newspapers, a school, banks, and the usual array of saloons and boarding houses, creating a self-sufficient community in the wilderness. The most iconic structure, the heart of Belmont's former prominence, is its courthouse. Completed in 1876, this magnificent 2-story brick building stands in a state of preserved decay, a powerful symbol of the law and order that the town represented. You can almost hear the echoes of trials and political debates that once took place within its walls. Nearby, another set of remarkable ruins tells of the industry that fueled the town, a series of towering charcoal kilns, beehive-shaped stone structures used to produce fuel for the smelters. They look like ancient temples dedicated to some forgotten industrial god. Belmont's decline was slow and graceful. As the silver became harder to mine and the county seat was moved to the more centrally located Tonopah in 1905, the population dwindled. People drifted away, leaving their stone houses and their grand courthouse to the sagebrush and the silence. Today, visiting Belmont is like stepping into a photograph from the 19th century. The quiet is profound, broken only by the wind. The remaining buildings, especially the courthouse, stand not as haunting ruins, but as proud, solemn relics of a silver-laced dream. Our journey now takes us to a ghost town that has been uniquely frozen in time, Berlin. Unlike other towns that were scavenged or left to crumble, Berlin has been preserved as part of a state park. To walk its dusty streets is to see a mining camp almost exactly as it was when the last residents departed in the early 20th century. The homes, the 30 stamp mill, the stagecoach station, they all stand intact, their contents still in place, as if the occupants simply stepped out for a moment and never returned. Berlin's story is a familiar one of boom and bust, though on a more modest scale. It came to life in the 1890s, built around a cluster of gold and silver claims. For about a decade, it was a lively community of a few hundred people, complete with its own post office and a stage line connecting it to the outside world. The Diana mine was its lifeblood, and the massive stamp mill, which still dominates the site, was its heart, pounding day and night to extract precious metals from the stubborn rock. The town's preservation offers an unparalleled glimpse into the daily lives of the miners and their families. We can peer into the windows of their simple wooden cabins and see the rusted stoves, rickety furniture, and personal belongings they left behind. It's a poignant and intimate experience, a tangible connection to the people who carved out a life in this remote canyon. The silence of the mill, once the loudest thing for miles around, is now the most profound feature, its machinery waiting for operators who will never return. But Berlin holds a secret far older than its mining camp. Just a short distance away, within the same park, lie the fossilized remains of giant marine reptiles. Here, in the middle of the desert, is the largest known concentration of ichthyosaurs, prehistoric creatures that swam in the warm ocean that covered Nevada 225 million years ago. This juxtaposition is extraordinary. A town that died a century ago sits beside a graveyard of creatures that died eons ago. It's a powerful lesson in time, extinction, and the stories the Earth holds, both human and ancient. We now travel east to a town forged in silver and steeped in blood, Pioche. If other ghost towns whisper of faded dreams, Pioche screams of a violent, lawless past. Founded in the late 1860s, its silver deposits were so rich that they attracted not just miners but a fearsome element of society. For a time, Pioche was infamous as one of the most dangerous gunslinging towns in the Old West, a place where fortunes were guarded with bullets and disputes were settled in the street. The early years were a reign of terror. The town was so remote that law enforcement was virtually non-existent. Hired gunmen, known as muckers, were employed by rival mining companies to intimidate, fight, and kill for control of the richest claims. It is said that 75 men were buried before a single person died of natural causes. The town's reputation was so fearsome that it was considered a safer bet to face down a band of Apache warriors than to be a stranger in Pioche. This violent legacy is immortalized in the town's cemetery, notoriously known as Boot Hill. Here, among the weathered wooden markers, are the graves of gunslingers, murder victims, and men who died with their boots on. The headstones tell a grim story of a town where life was cheap. One section is even designated for those who were shot in the back. Boot Hill is a stark and chilling monument to the chaos and brutality that defined Pioche's beginnings, a physical record of its bloody birth. Though the violence eventually subsided with the arrival of the law and the construction of a grand courthouse, a building so fraught with corruption it was called the $1 Million Courthouse, the spirit of old Pioche lingers. The town still exists, a semi-ghost town clinging to the side of a mountain, its narrow streets winding past historic buildings. But it is the view of Boot Hill, looking out over the valley, that truly defines the place. It serves as a permanent, silent reminder that the wealth of the West was often paid for not just in sweat, but in blood. In a remote corner of Lincoln County, we find the tragic ruins of a town that offered a golden promise, but delivered a slow, insidious death. This is Delamar. In the 1890s, it boomed with the discovery of a massive gold deposit, quickly growing into a bustling town of over 3,000 people. It had all the hallmarks of a major strike, a large mill, numerous businesses, and a population brimming with hope. Delamar was poised to be one of Nevada's great success stories. The gold was certainly there, locked away in quartzite rock. To extract it, the mills used a cyanide process, crushing the ore into a fine, powdery dust, and it was this dust that would seal Delamar's grim fate. The dust, sharp and laden with silica, was unavoidable. It hung in the air, settled on every surface, and most fatally, filled the lungs of the miners and mill workers. The condition, silicosis, was a slow, agonizing suffocation, a disease for which there was no cure. The town soon earned a dreadful nickname, the widowmaker. Men, often young and strong, would work in the mills, only to develop a hacking cough that grew progressively worse until they could no longer breathe. The constant funerals cast a dark pall over the town's golden promise. the cemetery filled with the victims of the Delamar dust, and many families were left without fathers, husbands, and sons. The very industry that gave the town life was also systematically killing its people. Today, the ruins of Delamar are scattered and forlorn, a testament to this tragedy. The stone walls of old buildings and the vast barren tailings, piles, are all that remain. There are no grand hotels or courthouses here, only the humble, crumbling foundations of a place defined by its deadly secret. Exploring Delamar is a somber experience. The silence is heavy, and the wind seems to whisper a cautionary tale about the hidden costs of avarice and the price that was paid for the gold extracted from its hills. Our path leads us to the high desert plains of Mineral County, to the skeletal remains of Candelaria. This town's story is one of immense wealth undermined by a single, desperate need: water. Silver was discovered here in the 1860s, but the true boom didn't ignite until a decade later, with the arrival of the Northern Bell mine. This mine was a legend, producing some of the richest silver ore in the state, and transforming a rugged camp into a significant town. At its peak in the early 1880s, Candelaria was a thriving community of over 1,000 people. Its main street was lined with saloons, stores, and hotels, all built to serve the men who toiled in the Northern Bell and other nearby mines. The sheer richness of the ore was astonishing, but the environment was brutally unforgiving. Candelaria was located in one of the most arid regions of Nevada, and a reliable source of water was nowhere to be found. This lack of water was the town's great, insurmountable challenge. It had to be hauled in by wagon and, later by train, from many miles away, and was sold at an exorbitant price. It was too precious to be used for milling the ore on site, so the high-grade rock had to be shipped elsewhere for processing, a costly endeavor. The dust, thick with silica and arsenic from the dry milled ore, was as deadly as Delamar's, plaguing the miners with lung disease. Candelaria was a town literally dying of thirst and choking on its own wealth. The remnants of Candelaria today reflect this harsh reality. What survived the elements are the sturdiest structures, built of native stone. The ruins of stone cabins and the walls of the old general store stand as stubborn monuments to a community that battled the desert and, for a time, won. The town faded as the silver declined and the water problem remained. Standing among these ruins, you can almost feel the pervasive dryness, the constant thirst that defined life, and ultimately death in this once rich silver camp. We now journey to a place that really embodies the cyclical nature of a mining life, a town that has refused to completely give up the ghost Cherry Creek. Tucked away in the Egan Range of eastern Nevada, Cherry Creek has experienced not one, but several cycles of boom and bust. It first came to life with a silver strike in the 1870s, quickly growing into one of the most important towns in the region, with a population of several thousand. This first boom was significant, supporting a school, a post office, and, numerous businesses. A massive 20-stamp mill processed the ore, and the town became a key center for the surrounding mining district. But like so many others, when the silver market crashed in the 1880s, Cherry Creek nearly emptied out. It fell into a deep slumber, with only a handful of residents remaining, just waiting. The wait paid off when new discoveries of gold and tungsten sparked revivals in the early 20th century, bringing people and activity flooding back into the old town. Each boom brought new life, and each bust left the town a little quieter, a little more weathered. It has been in a state of slow fade for much of the last century, never quite booming again, but never dying completely. This persistence is what makes Cherry Creek so compelling. It's a living ghost town, a place where the past is not a separate sealed-off chapter, but an integral part of the present landscape. Today, a small, hardy population of a few dozen people still call Cherry Creek home. They live amongst the ghosts of the past, with historic buildings like the old schoolhouse and the post office standing alongside modern homes. The town cemetery tells the long story of its many lives and deaths. Visiting Cherry Creek is a unique experience. It feels less like a ruin and more like a quiet, ongoing story. It is a testament to the resilience of those who choose to live in the shadow of history, their presence a quiet defiance of the boom and bust cycle. In the vast, open country of northeastern Nevada, we find a different kind of ghost town, one born not of a lust for gold or silver, but from an agricultural dream. This is Metropolis, a name that, honestly, just drips with ambition and irony. Founded in 1910 by an East Coast development company, this was to be a modern, planned farming utopia, a vibrant city supported by the bountiful fields of wheat that would grow in the surrounding valley. The vision was grand and meticulously planned. A magnificent multi-story hotel was built, as was a beautiful brick schoolhouse designed to serve hundreds of children. A dedicated rail line was constructed to connect the future city to the main Southern Pacific line. Settlers were lured by promises of fertile land and abundant water, which was to be supplied by a dam on the nearby Bishop Creek. For a brief moment, it seemed the desert would indeed bloom as promised. But the dream was built on a foundation of flawed assumptions. The developers had not secured full water rights to Bishop Creek. Downstream ranchers in Lovelock, who had prior claims, sued the new development. The court sided with the ranchers, severely restricting the water available for Metropolis's dam. This legal defeat was a death blow. The ambitious irrigation project failed, and without water, the crops withered in the arid soil. The dream of a farming empire turned to dust. Compounding the failure, the region was soon beset by a biblical-scale invasion of jackrabbits, which devoured what little crops did grow, followed by an outbreak of Mormon crickets. It was as if the land itself was rejecting the utopian vision. Families who had invested everything were forced to abandon their farms and their homes. Today, the most prominent remnants of this failed dream are the proud, defiant arch of the schoolhouse and the ghostly shell of the Grand Hotel, standing alone in a sea of sagebrush. They are monuments to a grand ambition that fatally underestimated the power of the desert. High in the mountains near the California border, we seek the scattered traces of Aurora, a town once so wild and important that two states fought over it. When gold was discovered here in 1860, a massive rush ensued. Within a few years, Aurora was a city of 10,000 people, a chaotic and vibrant metropolis of mines, mills, and saloons. The gold was so plentiful that for a time, Aurora rivaled even the Great Comstock Lode in importance. The town's location was so remote and the border so poorly surveyed that both California and the newly formed Nevada territory claimed it. This created a bizarre political situation. Aurora was simultaneously the county seat of Mono County, California, and Esmeralda County, Nevada. It had two sets of officials and residents voted in both state and county elections. This dispute continued for several years until an official survey in 1863 placed Aurora firmly, and by a mere 3 miles, inside Nevada. California's officials then packed up and left. Life in Aurora was notoriously rough. Its isolation bred a lawless atmosphere, and gunfights were a common occurrence. The infamous Aurora militia was more of a vigilante mob than a peacekeeping force. Yet, amidst the chaos, the town thrived. It had multiple newspapers, a stock exchange, and even hosted a young writer named Samuel Clemens for a short, unsuccessful stint as a miner before he adopted the pen name Mark Twain and found his true calling. The decline was swift. The mines proved to be shallow, and once the richest ore was gone, the town emptied out almost overnight. The final blow came when the mining companies moved their massive stamp mills to more promising locations. The buildings, many of them sturdy brick structures, were systematically dismantled and their materials carted away to be used in other towns. Today, almost nothing remains of the great city of Aurora. Only a few stone foundations, a hauntingly beautiful cemetery, and the faint outlines of streets are left, a ghostly blueprint of a town that was once the prize of 2 states. We venture now into the vast Hot Creek Valley, to the site of Tybo, a mining camp notable for its rich lead-silver ore and its remarkably diverse population. Named after the Shoshone word Tybo, meaning white man's district, the town boomed in the 1870s. At its height, it was a significant industrial center, supporting over 1,000 people drawn from all corners of the globe, including a substantial Chinese community that worked in and around the mines. The heart of Tybo's operation was its large smelter, which processed the complex lead-silver ore. To fuel this smelter, a vast amount of charcoal was needed. This gave rise to one of the area's most enduring and fascinating features: its charcoal kilns. Dozens of these large beehive-shaped stone ovens were built in the surrounding hills. Woodcutters, many of them Italian immigrants, would fell pinyon and juniper trees, and the kilns would slowly burn the wood into the charcoal that powered Tybo's industrial heart. The town itself was a lively, multicultural place. It had two separate communities: the main town for the European and American miners, and a Chinatown on the other side of the creek. This cultural mix, while segregated, created a dynamic and sometimes tense environment. Tybo was a microcosm of the global labor force that built the American West, a melting pot of languages, customs, and ambitions, all centered on the shared goal of pulling wealth from the earth. Today, the ruins of Tybo are spread out along the canyon. The stone and adobe walls of old buildings crumble under the Nevada sun, and the massive slag heap from the smelter stands as a dark, glassy monument to the town's industry. But it is the charcoal kilns that are the most evocative survivors. Some still stand, almost perfectly preserved, their stone arches like portals to the past. They are a silent testament to the immense labor and resources required to sustain a boomtown, and to the diverse peoples who came here seeking a better life. In the heart of the Tonopah Range, not far from Belmont, lies a town that has clung to life through multiple booms and a modern resurgence: Manhattan. The first major gold discovery occurred here in 1905, and the rush was on. Thousands of people poured into the narrow canyon, setting up a chaotic camp that quickly grew into a substantial town. The initial boom was intense but brief, fueled by rich surface placers that were quickly exhausted. Unlike many towns that died after the first bust, Manhattan had a second act. Deeper, hard rock mining proved profitable, and the town stabilized, supporting a smaller but steady population. Its most distinctive feature from this era is the magnificent high-banked wooden trestle that carried ore from the mines down to the mills, a remarkable feat of engineering that snaked along the canyon wall. The town thrived through the 1910s, a solid working-class mining community. Manhattan faded into obscurity for decades, with only a handful of old-timers remaining. Then, in the 1970s, something remarkable happened. The rising price of gold sparked a new boom, this time from large-scale open-pit mining. The town experienced a modern resurgence, with new residents moving in and new businesses opening. This boom too eventually faded, but it left behind a town that was once again alive, a quirky mix of historic structures and modern homes. Today, Manhattan is a fascinating blend of past and present. The most compelling sights are the dozens of old miners' cabins that still dot the hillsides. These small weathered wooden structures, some leaning precariously, some still inhabited, are a direct link to the town's earliest days. They stand among the sagebrush as humble, personal monuments to the countless individuals who tried their luck here. Walking through Manhattan, you see a living history, a place where the spirit of the prospector endures, not as a ghost, but as a quiet, resilient neighbor. Our long journey through Nevada's spectral past concludes in a place of quiet beauty and literary lore. Unionville. Nestled in a peaceful, verdant canyon in the Humboldt Range, Unionville feels different from the harsh, sun-beaten towns of the South. It was one of Nevada's earliest boomtowns, founded in 1861 after silver was discovered. For a short time, it was the most important town in the region and became the first seat of Humboldt County. The town grew rapidly, and its population swelled to over 1,500. It was a bustling place, with competing Union and Confederate sympathizers giving the town its name and its political fervor during the Civil War. Among the thousands who flocked here seeking fortune was a young man named Samuel Clemens. He arrived in 1862, built a small, simple cabin and spent a winter trying his hand at mining. He found little silver, but he found something far more valuable: the stories, characters, and experiences that would later form the bedrock of his literary career as Mark Twain. Unionville's prominence was short-lived. The mines were not as rich as first hoped, and the county seat was moved to the more centrally located Winnemucca in 1873. The town began a long, slow, and gentle decline. Unlike the violent busts of other camps, Unionville simply faded. Its residents drifted away, leaving behind their stone buildings and apple orchards to the quiet of the canyon. The town never completely died, but transitioned into the peaceful, sparsely populated hamlet it is today. Visiting Unionville now is a serene and reflective experience. The stone ruins of the old saloon and other buildings are scattered among a handful of occupied homes. The air is clean, the canyon is lush with cottonwoods, and old apple trees, planted by the original settlers, still bear fruit. A replica of Mark Twain's humble cabin stands as a quiet monument to its most famous, if unsuccessful, resident. Unionville is the perfect coda to our journey, a place where the frantic ghost of the boom has finally found peace, leaving behind a beautiful ruin and a great story. Our journey through the ghost towns of Nevada comes to an end, but the stories of these places are eternal. They are carried on the wind that sighs through the broken panes of the Rhyolite bank and whistles across the empty foundations of Aurora. They are held in the silence of the drowned streets of St. Thomas and in the dark, watchful windows of the Goldfield Hotel. To stand in these places is to feel the immense weight and wonder of time, to sense the powerful currents of hope, ambition, and loss that once flowed here. I invite you now to close your eyes and imagine it. Feel the dry desert air on your skin. Hear the crunch of gravel underfoot as you walk a street where thousands once trod. Listen, and you might just hear the faint echo of a saloon piano, the distant clang of a hammer on steel, or the murmur of voices speaking of fortunes to be made. These towns are not empty. They are filled with the resonant silence of lives lived, of dreams pursued, and of stories waiting to be heard by those who are willing to listen. Should you ever find yourself on these lonely roads, tread lightly. These are more than just ruins. They are memorials. They are the final fragile records of communities that flared into existence and then vanished, leaving behind a lesson in impermanence and resilience. Explore with respect, reflect on the lives that pass through these canyons and valleys, and carry their stories with you. For in remembering them, we keep a vital part of our shared human history alive, ensuring these echoes in the dust will never truly fade away.